So we're going to start today either sitting on a block. I don't know if you can see my block, it's almost the same color as my mat, but a block like this, or you can use a blanket. And the blanket can be rolled up and placed underneath your perineal area, kind of between the sit bones, because we're going to try to work today on recognizing the separation between the rib cage and the pelvis. So that kind of movement side to side and the rotation that occurs in the rib cage and not necessarily in the pelvis. And we're going to work on the kind of alignment that is most conducive to helping you maintain a good breathing sequence. And so as you're sitting in this position, you can feel the pressure from the surface, either from the block or the blanket, kind of pressing into the perineum where the pelvic floor muscles are. Pelvic floor muscles being between the two sit bones and between the pubic bone in front and the coccyx in the back. Don't worry, I'm not going to do anatomy the whole time. So first of all, just get comfortable, maybe close your eyes and start to notice just where the breath goes naturally. Notice if the belly's rising, notice if the chest is rising, notice if you're moving your shoulders. See if you can breathe in and out through the nose. Having to go through the nasal passages really slows down the breath. Allows us to balance the muscles of respiration a little bit better. And so with normal breathing, and of course we're doing this all day, every day, we usually don't pay much attention to the mechanics. But now I want you to notice if you're holding any tension in your belly, in your abdominal muscles. See if you can let that tension go. And then see if you can notice if the breath moves a little bit deeper into the lungs, allowing the rib cage to move out to the side on the inhale. Allow that upper belly to rise on the inhale. And then on the exhale, allow everything to move back to center. And then from the very top of your head, we call it the crown of the head, there's this sort of, you can even reach up with your hand and touch, where there's a little bit of a flatter area of the skull. See if you can lift that area, almost like you've got a string attached to it, lifting it up towards the ceiling, but allow the shoulders to sort of drop down. So you give yourself a really nice long neck. The chin is going to be level with the earth, level with the ground. And watch to see if you pull the shoulder blades way back together. And as a group, let's do that. We'll pull the shoulder blades way back and notice what happens to the ribs cage when you do that. Notice how the front of the ribs kind of lift and open, and then bring the shoulders forward and notice how the ribs come back, and almost like you're sort of knitting the angles of the ribs together as you come forward. And so we'll do a little cat-cow here. As we open up, we lift up and roll the shoulders back, flaring out the ribs, and then on the exhale, rolling forward with the shoulders, kind of rounding the back, bringing the angles of the rib cage together in the front, almost like you're knitting them together. And then with your hands, you can slide them up towards the hips on the inhale, opening up the front of the body, making the movement a little more dramatic now. And then on the exhale, sliding the hands down towards the knees, rounding out the shoulders, bringing those angles of the ribs together. Good, let's go 2 more times. So inhaling, opening up, bringing the sternum up towards the ceiling. Maybe the gaze comes up towards the ceiling. And then on the exhale, rounding down. This time, see if you can find Mula Bandha and engage pelvic floor as you round even deeper into the pose. And then we'll inhale again, one more time, sliding the hands up, noticing the hands against the thigh, noticing the pinching of the shoulder blades together, the elbows pull together, chin lifts, and then exhale, bring everything back to center, hands come forward, rounding out the back, Mula Bandha engages. Good, so coming back to that sort of neutral spine position, bring your arms out towards the sides of the room. And we're just going to separate the ribs from the pelvis. So keep the sit bones glued and reach as far as you can with the right fingertips towards the right side of the room. And then come back to center. And then reach with those left fingers towards the left side of the room. See if you can keep that right sit bone really grounded. And then come back to center. And the breathing will be, you inhale as you reach with the right fingertips. Exhale, bring the ribs back. Inhale as you bring the left fingertips towards the left. Exhale as you bring them back. And then we'll go one more time, really noticing that stretch through the left side of the body when you reach to the right. And then that balance when you come back to center. And then reaching with the left fingertips, noticing that separation between rib cage and pelvis. And then come back to center. And then arms down by your side, come back to that awareness of rib cage over the pelvis. Take a moment just to put your finger on your sternum, your right finger's on your sternum, and your left finger's on your pubic bone, and see if you can, with your mind's eye, just feel that alignment, that they're in the same plane. One's not behind the other, one's not in front of the other, that everything seems balanced. Good. And then bring your hands back down by your side. And we're going to inhale the right arm up. Left hand's going to plant into the ground and trying to align the shoulders on top of each other to some extent, to really reaching those right fingertips up towards the ceiling and anchoring down on the left. And then exhale, come back down with the right arm. Inhale the left arm up, stretching through the sides of the body. Exhale down. And then we'll inhale up again, reaching up with those right fingertips. Maybe the gaze comes up at the fingertips as you reach just a little bit higher, noticing that the left hand is pushing down, and that helps the right hand lift up. Take one more breath here. Exhale, come back down. And then planting the right hand down, we'll lift those left fingertips up, the gaze up at the left hand, reaching and lifting, breathing in and breathing out. Take one more breath here, really lengthening through the arms, through the chest. And then exhale, come back down. And then hands back onto the tops of the thighs, just sort of notice what you notice. Notice that the breath has changed. Notice if you need to come back to releasing the abdominal muscles. Maybe you can kind of wiggle your chest side to side and just notice the fluid movement of the body here. So we're going to take the arms and we're going to cross them over. So now the right hand is on the left thigh, left hand is on the right thigh. And we're going to do a little bit of a rotation. And we're going to inhale the right arm up. Follow it with your gaze and reach it towards the wall behind you. And then we'll exhale and we'll come back down. And then cross your arms the other way. Inhale the left arm up, reaching and stretching in that rotational movement. Exhale, come back down. So now we're going to come up. You can keep doing this, but I'm going to bring you a little bit into more vigorous movements now. So we're going to inhale up onto the knees and raise your arms up. And then we'll exhale, bring the arms back down as you come back to sit on your surface. So sometimes we do something similar and we call it flower. So we inhale up, we're blossoming and opening and lifting our hearts up. And then exhale, we're folding down. And you can bring a little bit of a chin tuck into the coming down and a chin lift as you inhale up, opening up, reaching up. Exhale, come back down. And then we'll inhale up, reaching and lifting. This time, pause here. Circle your hands all the way around and bring your hands to the high hip, up to those the crest of the ilium here. I'm actually going to take my block out and toss it aside. So bring your knees so they're right underneath your hips there. And come to find that alignment again where the pelvis is not too tucked and it's also not sticking out to the back, that the sternum and the pubic bone are pretty much in alignment, and that the rib cage is free to move from side to side, and that the belly can rise and fall with breath. So keeping your hands on your high hip here, bring your leg out to the side. This time, first we're going to start with the leg with the toes pointing towards the front. So the side of your foot is pressing down very firmly here. And see if you can see how that firms up the outside of your hip. You're really pressing that lateral border of the right foot into the mat. And then we're going to bend the knee just a little bit, coming into a stretch to that right thigh, inner thigh. And then exhale as we come back up just straight. So we'll inhale. And then gently squeeze Mula Bandha as you exhale and come straight with your knee. And we'll go one more time, inhaling. And then exhale, Mula Bandha contracts. You come up, straightening out that knee, really engaging the front of the thigh, the quadriceps. Take one breath here, just really embracing the vigor of this pose. And then we're going to turn that right foot so that it's facing the short end of the mat. So now we got a little bit more opening of the right thigh here. And we're going to do that same thing. So we're going to inhale as we lunge into the right knee. And then we're going to exhale as we straighten. Mula Bandha contracts on the exhale. Inhale, bring the right arm up as you come into your sort of a modified warrior two here. And then exhale, you can bring the arm down as you straighten out the leg. And then inhale, both arms up. And exhale down. So let's go two more times, just flowing with the movement here. We inhale, keeping that right knee towards the back of the mat. Exhale. And then we'll inhale, this time pausing here, really pushing with that back knee into the mat. So that left knee is really engaged. Right knee is pulling towards the long side of the mat, pulling towards the right. Take one more breath here. And then we're going to straighten out the right leg again, but this time the left hand's going to come down and find the ground underneath your left shoulder. Right arm's going to lift up towards the ceiling. The gaze can be up at that right hand if you like. And then we're going to bring the right hand so that the arm is even with the right ear. You're going to get this really nice stretch through the whole right side of the body. And now we're going to flow a little bit with this. So looking down at your left hand, you're going to inhale, watch the right hand as it comes up, watch the right leg as it comes up, and then we'll exhale, and we'll inhale, raising the right arm, raising the right leg, exhale, bring everything down, and then inhale, reaching it up, hold the pose here if you can, flexing those right toes towards the face. Left hand presses down, right hand lifts up. Take one more breath here. And then right hand's going to come to your pelvis, to your high hip. Lower the right foot down. We'll inhale both arms up. Bring the right knee back. And we'll sit back onto our heels and reassess. Bring your hands back to your thighs. Maybe close your eyes for a moment. Notice the breath. Notice any changes in your body after going through those poses. So we're going to come up into high kneeling again, raising up your arms once again into our flower pose. And then arms continue back around so they're resting on your high hip. Left foot goes out to the side. First time we're going to point the toes towards the long end of the mat and really press the outside of the foot into the mat. There's a lot of energy going on just right here. Those left hip abductors and the outside of the hip should be really engaging here. Breathing in and breathing out. And then we'll take a little bit of that lunge on the inhale. We lunge into that left knee, left foot staying flat. Exhale, coming back. Trying to keep the pelvis nice and level. Inhale, we come down into the lunge. Notice the stretch in the thigh. Notice the stretch in the outside of the ankle. Exhale, straighten out. Inhale, maybe bring the arms into the movement here. So we come into this sort of modified warrior two. Exhale, hands come to high hips. And now we'll turn the foot so the toes are facing the short end of the mat. This is where it gets a little tricky because we need that left knee pulling towards the left to keep the thigh open. So first just kind of play around with this as you come into the lunge on the left. Exhale, straighten out the leg. Move myself just a little bit. There we go. And then we'll inhale with the arms out. Exhale, Mula Bandha comes in. Inhale, coming into your warrior two, modified on the knees. Exhale, coming back down. And then we'll inhale one more time, reaching and stretching through the fingertips. And now the left hand's going to come down inside that left knee. The right arm's going to reach up towards the ceiling. And so notice that the left arm is really helping that left knee stay nice and open. So the shoulder and the thigh are kind of partnering up here. The left hand presses down to lift the right hand just a little bit higher. And the gaze can be up at that right hand. So breathe in and breathe out. Notice in different positions, the breathing becomes more challenging. So as we change the shape of the rib cage, through the different postures, we affect a change in the breath. So take one more breath here, and then we'll exhale as we come back up, and this time going all the way down onto that right hand and lifting the left hand up towards the ceiling. So this time the right hand is pressing down to lift the left hand up. So notice how that feels, and then bring the left hand so that it's reaching towards the right side and the arm is coming even with your ear. And looking down at the right hand and then up at the left hand. So notice that range of motion of the head. We'll inhale the left hand up, left leg up. And exhale. Bring it down so that you're really pressing through the outside of that foot again, reaching with the left fingertips. Inhale up. Exhale down. And we'll do one more time, reaching and lifting. Notice the effort of that left leg, having to hold that against gravity. And then we'll reach the fingertips towards the right, bring the foot down, and we're going to cartwheel our hands down until we come into an all-fours position. So once you get into this tabletop position, start to notice the position of the wrist relative to the shoulders. So we want to think about stacking the joints here. We want to think about a little bit more pressure through the thumb and the forefingers. And we want the neck to be in a fairly neutral position. So the gaze down at the mat. It's a little bit of a chin tuck here, where the back of the head is, or the back of the neck is staying nice and long, just like we did when we were in seated. And then go ahead and let the belly drop, lift the head up on the inhale. On the exhale, rolling everything under and coming into our cat pose. Chucking the tailbone down, the crown of the head moves down towards the mat. And then we'll inhale to come up for air. We exhale, we dive down, engage Mula Bandha as you go. So tucking that tailbone under, drawing the navel a little bit towards the backbone, but have your focus on the pelvic floor. We'll inhale, release that effort, come up for air. Exhale, diving down. Engaging Mula Bandha, that tailbone tucks under. And then we come back to a neutral spine position. Again, knees pretty much under the hips. Probably don't have a mirror there to check exactly, but just kind of play around with your hip position and make sure we're stacking the joints pretty well. And then we're going to take the hips and we're going to bring them to the left side. Keep the thoracic area, keep that rib cage so that everything's balanced on top of the mat. You're not moving the ribs. Bring the hips back to center and then bring them over to the right. So we can do this with the breath. We can inhale to center and exhale as we bring them to the side. Inhale to center. Exhale as we bring them over to the right side. All these tail wags. So inhale to center. Exhale to the left. Inhale to center. Exhale to the right. Good. Then coming back to center, we're going to take the right foot and we're going to just keep the toes tucked under. And we're going to push with the hands so that there's a nice stretch. As the torso comes towards the back of the mat, we're stretching into that right heel cord. So notice the stretch there. Notice the effort, even with your hands, your shoulders, as you push back into that resistance of the calf muscles. Keeping the quadriceps engaged, keeping the hip points down towards the mat. Breathe in and breathe out. And then bringing the knee back to center. This time making a little bit faster tail wag if that feels good to you. Just kind of moving into those muscles that we're working really hard. And then we'll take the left foot back. The toes are tucked under. There's a really pretty strong push with the arms, with that upper body, working into the left heel cords. So breathe in and breathe out. Notice the stretch. Notice the effort. And then we'll bring it back to neutral spine. Shift your hips side to side. So now we're going to take that same movement of sliding the right leg back. Toes are tucked under. And then we're going to have a little bit of lift off here. So the heel is going to lift straight up towards the ceiling. And you'll notice that if you keep the leg in a real neutral position, that there's a little bit of an inner spiral of the leg as the pinky toe draws down towards the mat. Now there's not an actual rotation at the hip. There's just an energetic pull. So see if you can feel that. And the reason we do that is to keep you from rolling the hip out, which is what most people want to do in this position. Take one more breath here. And then exhale, bring the knee down, shift side to side. Notice if your arms are getting tired from this position. There's always the option of coming down on the elbows if you want to get a little bit of relief from your shoulders. And from here, this time see if you can engage Mula Bandha and slide the left leg back. Toes are tucked under first, and then we have lift off. The heel lifts towards the ceiling. The toes are still actively flexed towards the body. Quadriceps engaged. Just realized I had lost that sort of neutral spine position of my chin. So coming back to that, where the gaze is down at the mat. The chin is slightly tucked. Back of the neck long. Take one more breath here. And then exhale, lower it down. So coming back into a child's pose just for a moment. And you can do a narrow child's pose, or you can bring your legs nice and wide and just start to stretch into the lower back a little bit and into the shoulders. In child's pose, bringing the forehead down towards the mat can give you some support. If you don't have that kind of range of motion, you can always use a block underneath the forehead to make it more restful. And come back to the breath awareness. Come back to allowing the belly to move with the breath, allowing the ribs to move to the side. And in this position, you might even feel the breath a little bit more in the back of the rib cage. So notice that. And take one more breath here. And then if you use the block, you can move it out of the way. We're going to come back into a tabletop position. And this time we're going to take the right leg back and lift it up and lift that left arm up. So nice and strong with the fingers reaching towards the front of the room and the heel pushing towards the back of the room, almost like you're standing on the wall that's behind you. And then notice what you feel between the two extremes of movement, that space between the fingertips, and the toe and the heel. And then we'll take one more breath here. We'll lower down the arm and the leg, shift your hips side to side if that feels good. And then we'll take the left leg back, lifts off, right arm lifts, nice and strong. Pushing with that left heel against the wall behind you, reaching with the fingertips for the wall in front of you, breathing in and breathing out. And one more breath here. And exhale, bring everything down, shift the hips side to side. We're going to walk our hands back and come back into our high kneeling position. Hands are going to be on the high hips here, on the crest of the ilium. And we're going to bring the right foot forward. So we're coming into a little bit of a low lunge here. And then we'll raise those arms up into sort of a modified crescent lunge. So here, the right foot is an anchor, the left knee is an anchor. Notice the effort of pressing the left knee into the mat and almost imagine that you're sliding it towards the back of the mat as you get into a little bit of a more of a hip flexor stretch in the front. So take one more breath here. On the exhale, we're going to open up your arms into a little bit of a twist. So your pelvis can't help but be facing the front of the mat, but your rib cage is just twisted on your pelvis. So nice separation here between the two. And then we're going to drop that left hand down and raise the right arm up. So coming into a twisted low lunge. There's that efforting of the left hand to press down and the efforting of the right fingertips to lift up towards the ceiling. And then all the other effort that's going on between them. Take one more breath here. And then the right hand's going to come join the left hand inside the right foot as we bring the right knee out to the side, rolling onto the outside border of that right foot, and start to lower down into a little bit of a lizard pose. Now it's still kind of early in the practice, so just listen to your body. This is an opportunity, if you'd like, to put a block underneath your glutes and sort of use that as a target for how deep you want to go. You can always just use the pressure of your hands. But if you've chosen to put the block there, we're going to go a little bit deeper and move the right foot towards the left side of the mat. And then allow the right leg to open up, but use that block as a little bit of a stop as we come into a little bit of a modified pigeon here. So notice the stretch in the outside of that right hip. Stay up on your hands here. We're not going to do the full sleeping pigeon. Just going to do a little bit of an openness through that right hip. Should feel it in the buttocks. Left leg is staying strong. Arms are staying strong and supportive. Come back to the breath. Come back to that awareness of the ease of the air moving in and the ease of the air moving out. Take one more breath here. And then we'll start to lift the buttocks off of the block, and we'll bring the hands back to where they're spaced a little bit more. Take the block out of the way. Right knee comes back to join the left knee. And we can just rock back and forth a few times, almost like we're going into child's, and then forward. And just see if we can stretch through those glutes that just worked really, really hard. So back and forth. Feel the rolling of the hip joint. So we kind of lubricate the hip joint there. And then coming back with your hips, walking back with your hands, we're going to come up back to our high kneeling position, and we'll take the left foot forward. So tuck the pelvis under just a little bit. I'm not sure I said that on the other side. And then pressing down the right knee, sliding it, imaginary slide, back towards the back of the mat. So you really kick the right glutes up a notch. And we're lunging forward into that left knee. We'll raise the arms up. So notice even with the arms raised, we're not bringing the shoulders up to the ears. The movement's going to occur. 2/3 of the movement occurs at the shoulder joint, and the other third occurs because the scapula is free to rotate. So allow yourself to feel that rotation. Inhale as you lengthen out through the spine just a little bit more. Exhale as you reach the arms front and back and come into a twist. So maybe you noticed a little more twist to one side than the other. That's okay. We're just here to notice what's going on in our body. We all have different imbalances. We all have different areas of muscle tightness. So we want to notice, and we want to notice what happens to the breath when we get in these different positions. Take one more breath here. And then we're going to exhale that right hand down. Left hand's going to reach up towards the ceiling. And we're going to lift the gaze up towards the left fingertips. Pressing down with the right, lifting with the left. If it's comfortable to your neck, turn and look up to your left fingertips. Breathing in and breathing out. Notice the effort. Notice the breath and how it changes. One more breath here. And then exhale, your left hand's going to come inside the left foot, and you're going to start to lower down into that pigeon, rolling onto the outside border of that left foot and allowing the knee to drop out to the side. And then taking the block, you can put it underneath the left buttock. You can put it kind of underneath the left upper thigh as you start to roll down and sink down. Keeping the spine nice and long, keeping the chin tucked. And then we're going to bring the left hand to the outside of the left foot, start to walk that left foot towards the right side, coming into your pigeon. Again, not the deepest pigeon you've ever done. Just allow yourself to come onto the hands, resting onto the hands. Right leg is engaged. Left hip is opening up. Allow the block to be a support for you. And then notice the change in the breath. Notice where the effort is. Notice where the ease is. See if you can allow your abdominal wall to release a little bit. You've got support other places. Notice the breath. Then we'll take one more breath here. And then we'll come back up, allowing the knee to come back to center, coming back into our tabletop position. Bringing the hands a little in front of the shoulders. We're going to inhale the hips back, almost like we're coming up into a puppy pose. Tuck the toes under, rock forward. When you get about halfway, see if you can tighten Mula Bandha and lift your hips up towards the ceiling for our first down dog. Now you probably have to adjust the feet a little bit here. Maybe take a moment just to bicycle out the legs. So the heels come down while the other knee bends. Other heel comes down as the other knee bends. And just back and forth. Notice if your arms feel open. Notice if you can really power up the hands and push forward on the mat to lift those hips up towards the ceiling. And then bring in a little bit more rotation into your knee bend. So when you straighten out the right leg and press the right heel down, the left knee is coming towards the right side of the mat. You're getting that twist through the lower body. And come back up on the toes. Left heel presses down, right knee comes towards the left side of the mat, and we twist. So let's do a couple of cycles of that on each leg. Right heel presses, left knee comes towards the right, up on the toes on the inhale. Exhale, left knee presses, right knee comes towards the left. And then one more round on your own, up on the heel and up on the toes and down. And then up and down. And up on the toes. On the exhale, this time we're going to walk towards the top, towards the hands. Give yourself a really nice deep knee bend here so that the chest is resting on the thighs. The crown of the head is dropping down towards the mat. So really deep, almost squat here. And just let your head rock from side to side. Allow yourself to feel the mat, or maybe you're using a block for this. Just notice the support of your hands. Notice with that support of your hands and the solid base of support through your feet, your hips are able to lift a little higher. And we breathe in and we breathe out. And then we're going to roll up the spine, nice and slow, coming up to where we're standing on the mat in our mountain pose. So we've talked about alignment already in sitting. We talked about alignment in all fours. And now in this standing posture where we spend a good bit of our life, see if you can notice that extreme of anterior tilt where your tailbone sticks back and your rib cage lifts, and a posterior tilt where your tailbone drops down and your rib cage comes towards the center and towards the pelvis. And go ahead and rock back and forth between the extremes of movement here, almost like you're doing a standing cat-cow. And then after you've done about 2 or 3 rounds of that, see if you can start making those movements even smaller until you come to this place where you feel like your pelvis is fairly balanced. Come back to placing hands on the lower ribs, on the upper belly. Elbows are going to be out towards the sides. And start to come back to awareness of breath, breathing in and out through the nose allowing the rib cage to expand, allowing the upper belly to rise, and then a bit of movement in the sternal area of the rib cage. And if you know what a bellows is, it's like a bellows opening, or some people call it umbrella breathing, where the whole rib cage opens around circumferentially and the belly rises just a bit. And breathe out. Notice if you go into a lot of extension with your back, so go ahead and pull your shoulder blades really strongly together and kind of lift up your sternum like you're standing in the best military posture. And notice here what that does to your rib cage and how it flares those ribs out and it makes it harder to breathe. So from that extreme movement, come back to balanced again so that the rib angles are moving in a neutral position over the pelvis, and they're not extended and they're not flexed. Good, and then we're gonna go back with the left foot first into our lunge here. So the right foot forward, raise your arms up. We did this in kneeling. It's gonna feel a little more intense in standing. Press your left toes into the mat and really engage those left glutes as you're sort of drawing the tailbone down towards the mat. Good, breathe in and breathe out. Take one more breath here, and then we're going to drop that left heel down and come into your warrior two. So we did this in kneeling. Notice the difference. Some of you may find it a little easier in a standing position. I know I do. So bringing the right knee towards the right side of the mat, keeping that right thigh nice and open. Meanwhile, the left heel is really pressing down the outside border of that left foot, grounding. And we breathe in and we breathe out. And then we're going to flow. So inhale, straighten out your right leg, lift your right hand up towards the ceiling. Exhale, warrior two. And we'll inhale, lifting up, reaching, straightening out that right leg. Exhale, Mula Bandha, warrior two. Inhale, reaching up, call this peaceful warrior. So opening up, reaching down with the left, reaching up with the right. This time coming into the warrior two legs, but the right elbow, forearm is going to rest onto the thigh as we come into a side angle. So from this position, take that left hand, sweep it down and up. Bring it up by the left ear. So you're trying to make as straight a line as possible between the left fingertips and the left heel. And then the gaze, you can turn the head and look underneath that left armpit and then drift the eyes up towards the hand. And that's the dristi. Breathe in and breathe out. Take one more breath here. And then we're going to exhale as we come back up into our wide, kind of a star shape here. Arms are out to the side. Legs are parallel with the short end of the mat. Make sure the toes are a little bit pointed in here so that you have more space through the lower back. Hands are going to come onto the high hip. And notice here that relationship again between the pelvis and the rib cage. And as we pull the elbows back together, you can keep that alignment. So you don't have to lift up the chest to do this. Make the movement in the elbows. Inhale to lengthen. Exhale to fold forward, keeping the back nice and straight. Elbows are pulling together towards the midline. Back of the head, back of the neck is long. Now we breathe in and we breathe out. If you need more support, feel free to put your hands down onto the mat. Breathe in and breathe out. And then we're gonna, everybody put their hands on the mat. We'll walk your hands over to the right foot. Grab the right ankle with your left hand, and then raise the right arm up. Now, if that doesn't feel steady to you, you can always put your hand down on the mat for support instead of grabbing the ankle. Breathing in and breathing out, reaching with the right hand, pressing down with the left hand to help you get some length. And then exhale, both hands come down. We walk the hands over to the left side. Right hand can grab the left ankle, if that's comfortable. And then we start to twist, and the left arm lifts up. Again, options would be to put your hand down on the mat, or even put your hand down on a block. See if you can notice that as you twist, the breathing changes. Take one more breath here. Exhale, come back to center. Hands are going to touch the mat here. Bend slightly into the right knee. Come back to center. Bend slightly into the left knee. Come back to center. One more time, right. Feel the stretch. Feel the openness. And then left. And this time we're going to start to walk our hands over to the left. Spin our feet around. So now we're coming into a low lunge and rising up into our crescent lunge again. So when you're ready, bring those arms up towards the ceiling. Power up that right glute. Really pressing back with those right toes. A little bit of a drawing down the tailbone towards the earth. And we breathe in, breathing out. Take one more breath here. And then we'll turn towards the left just for a moment, feeling the twist in your spine. And then we'll inhale the arms up again towards the ceiling and exhale into our warrior two. So from here, noticing the right heel presses down, outside border of the right foot really grounded. That kicks up that glute med on the right. Left knee is pulling a little bit towards the left side of the mat. Arms are reaching for the walls. There's a little bit of a gentle pulling together of the shoulder blade. So this co-contraction of the shoulder blade muscles. And then between all of this dynamism is the breath. So lots of movements here with the muscles, with that background. We call it the background music of the body is the breath. And then we'll drop the right hand down, straighten out that left knee as we lift the left hand up towards the ceiling. Exhale back into your warrior two. Inhale, straightening the knee, lifting the fingers. Exhale, Mula Bandha, warrior two. One more time, reaching and lifting, opening up, left side of the body. On the exhale, left forearm comes to the left thigh. And we sweep our arm down and up towards that right ear. So there's this nice long line between the fingertips on the right and the heel on the right. The gaze is the head's gonna turn towards that right armpit and the drishti up at the right fingertips. We're steady with the breath here. Breathe in and breathe out. Good, take one more breath, really reaching with the right fingertips, grounding through the right heel. And then we'll inhale as we come back up, getting ready for our Last forward fold. Now you can go back where we were last time with your hands on the hips or your hands on the ground. We're going to do a yogi toe lock if you're going to come with me. So first of all, I want you to feel the muscles in the outside of your hip and really strongly press into the heels on both legs. You'll kick those up a notch. Right arms out to a T, both arms out to a T. We're going to fold forward, and as you get down, you're going to bring your two peace fingers on the right hand, grab your right big toe, peace fingers on your left hand, grab your left big toe. We're going to inhale to kind of lengthen out. As the toes press down, the fingers lift up. And then on the exhale, fold forward, bending the elbows and coming down into bringing the crown of the head down towards the mat. And we breathe in and breathe out, noticing in these inverted positions as the organs drop up and press against the diaphragm, the breathing gets more limited. So feeling the blood come into your head, feeling the effort between toes and fingers and legs. Take one more breath here. And then we'll release the yogi toe lock. Bring your hands up to your hips. Elbows pull together, and we'll come back up to a standing position. And bring your legs together, shake them out. Shake anything that needs shaking. Just kind of feel some looseness in the muscles after all of that effort. Then we're going to step to the top of the mat, and we're going to go into lying on our tummies, but I'm going to take you through just sort of a modified sun salutation here. So inhale your arms up, exhale, fold forward, hands come to reach the earth. Inhale, look up with a flat back. Exhale, fold. Bring one leg back then the other. From here in this plank position, drop your knees down and lower your chest down. Bring your hands back so they're right underneath the armpits pretty much. If that's not comfortable to your shoulders, then you can choose another position. But the elbows are going to pull back. And we're going to press through the hands, press through the feet, and inhale up. So coming into our back bend, sort of counterpose to what we just did. Exhale, come back down. Then we'll inhale to come up. And exhale to come back down. Inhaling up. And exhaling down. And then coming down to rest on your forehead, we're going to bring the arms out to sort of cactus arms to the side. Forehead is resting. We're going to lift up the right leg, and then we're going to lower it down. So inhale, lift the left leg. Exhale, bring it down. Inhale, lift the right leg. Exhale, down. Inhale, lift the left leg. Exhale, down. And then inhale both legs. Now, if this is too much, just go back to the one leg. And we're going to lift both legs up and see if we can hold this through 3 or 4 or 5 breath cycles. So notice when the glutes are turned on, the belly's blocked, those back muscles are working. It's gonna compromise the breath some. Take one more breath here and then lower down. And then bring your feet up, and we're just gonna windshield wiper your knees or your feet from side to side and just kind of work into those low back muscles. So feet move from side to side. Enjoy just that freedom of movement here.
And then bringing your legs back down to the mat, we're going to inhale the upper body as it lifting up, the arms lift up, and then we exhale and we come back down. Inhale up and exhale down. Notice that the tops of the feet have to be really grounded here. Inhale up and exhale down. And then shift your hips from side to side. Wiggle your shoulders side to side. Get some blood flowing into those muscles that just worked really hard. And then we're going to do one Superman. So you can choose your arm position. The arms can be straight up in front of you. You can keep them at the cactus arms, or you can bring them down by your side. But we're going to lift up everything but your belly. So lift up legs, lift up chest, head, and arms. And if you chose to bring your arms down by your side, the fingertips are reaching strongly for the feet here. So breathing in and breathing out. Take one more breath here. And then exhale, lower down, bring your hands back underneath your shoulders, and we'll roll over onto your back. So the first thing to notice in this position is the alignment of your rib cage and your pelvis. So we'll start with the back of the head. Notice that the back of the head is resting against the mat. There's a little bit of a curve, so the neck should not be resting against the mat. You should be able to put your hand in that space behind your neck and feel that there's a gap there. And then the thoracic spine, where the ribs are, that should be pressing against the mat. And then in the lumbar area, a little bit of a space there, maybe big enough to put your hand. So investigate that and see if you've got that nice lumbar curve there. And then we come to the sacrum resting against the mat. The knees are bent, so the feet are flat. So notice that there's some curves in the arches of the feet. And we're going to go from here into a bridge pose. So with bridge, there's two options. So one of them is that you can roll back into a pelvic tilt and flatten out the back and then press through the feet and lift up. So everybody try that. And then on the way down, you roll back down like you're touching each spinous process in your back. And every vertebrae gets its chance to be in contact with the mat. And then we come back to a neutral spine. So we'll bring Mula Bandha into this. So take a breath in. Exhale, Mula Bandha. We press down into the mat, doing our pelvic tilt, and start to kind of roll up the spine. I like to say one vertebrae at a time. Coming up to where you're resting on the shoulder blades in the back of the shoulders. The shoulders are pressing down strongly. The feet are pressing down strongly. The back of the head pressing into the mat, preserving that curve in your cervical spine. And then we'll roll down the spine, engage Mula Bandha again, and we'll come down one vertebrae at a time. And come into your neutral spine position again. Take your feet wider than the mat, and we'll windshield wiper your knees in this way, side to side. Giving those back muscles some blood flow, oxygen, and a little bit of a break in the action. And then we'll come back with your feet flat on the mat. Knees are about hip distance apart. This time we're going to go all the way up without rolling into the pelvic tilt, but roll your shoulder blades back, really ground down your shoulder blades, so they're pretty much resting flat. Your arms are pressing down, and we'll inhale straight up. And then once you're up in the air with your hips, notice again, the arms are working, the back of the head works, the shoulder blades are grounding down, feet are grounding down. Take a breath here and exhale. See if you can engage Mula Bandha and come all the way down in a neutral spine. And then take your feet wider if you want, and windshield wiper your knees again. We're going to do 2 more like that. So we did 3 with the pelvic tilt, and we'll do 3 with a neutral spine. And it just gives you some options of how you want to do your bridge. So coming back with your feet flat, watch too that your knees are staying in line with your hips and that your feet are really grounded down, all 4 corners of the feet working. So we'll inhale the hips up. And then exhale, gently squeeze Mula Bandha as you come down. Then we'll inhale the hips up. And exhale, squeeze Mula Bandha as you come down. And then the knees into the chest. Give yourself a nice squeeze. Rolling your knees from one direction, just like you're stirring a big soup. Knees are going to make some big circles. Go about 3 times in one direction and then 3 times in the other direction. So time to really kind of notice the breathing. Once again, if you've lost track of the breathing, it's easy to do. So after you finish your 3rd time in each direction, we're going to take the knees really nice and wide, flex the feet, and we're going to bring those flat feet like you're squatting on the ceiling, okay? So take your right arm inside the right knee, grab the outside of the right foot if that's available. Options would be just to grab around underneath your thigh, like in the crook of your knee. I'm going to hold on to the outside of my right foot and let that right arm kind of assist the right leg to stay nice and open. Same thing on the left arm inside the left knee, grab the outside of the left foot. And again, imagine that you're squatting on the ceiling. Your knees and ankles trying to stay aligned here so that you're not having the knees wider than the feet or the feet wider than the knees. It's this really nice downward pull of the hands as we bring the knees down towards the floor. And then the breath, we come back to that awareness. See if you can feel the openness in the area of Mula Bandha, in the area of the pelvic floor. As you breathe in, you might feel some expansion. And if you like, on the exhale, you can gently squeeze and lift Mula Bandha. So we make it a breathing exercise. We breathe in to release. Breathe out to gently squeeze and lift. And we breathe in, release. We breathe out, squeeze and lift. And then for a Baddha Konasana, we're going to keep our knees wide, and we're going to keep them wide by pushing them apart with our elbows and bringing the soles of the feet towards the midline. You can rearrange the handhold here so that as the feet find each other, you can grab both feet with both hands and pull them in towards the groin area, towards your pelvis. The knees are going to meanwhile be shooting out towards the sides of the room to really find some space in those inner thigh muscles. So we breathe in and breathe out, the hands pulling the feet towards the body, the energy of the hip muscles, moving the knees towards the sides of the room. And then there's the breath in between it all. So yoga being such a great metaphor for life, there's always a lot of commotion going on. There's always a lot of things pulling us in one direction or another direction. But the one thing that's stable in every situation is our breath. And we have to notice that we have some control over that, even when the rest of the world seems to be out of our control. So as we learn to control our breath and we learn to breathe intentionally throughout our day, we change the whole texture of our life, whole way of approaching situations. Let's take one nice intentional breath here. Exhale as you bring your knees back into center. The legs are going to come up towards the ceiling. Your legs are like mine. They're feeling a little tired by now. If you have a strap, you can use that. We're just going to flex and point the feet, helping the blood to flow back to our hearts. Heart rate starts to slow down. Start to get ready for consolidation of our practice, which is what happens during our Shavasana. So one more flex and point with your feet. Bringing the knees into your chest. Arms are going to go out to the side. And then we're going to drop the knees over to the right side. You want to give yourself a little assist. You place your hand on top of the left knee, the left thigh. The left shoulder blade is reaching for the earth. On that nice separation between the pelvis and the rib cage. Depending on where you want to feel the stretch, you can modify the position of your knees. I have my knees pretty far up close to my chest, but if you wanted to straighten your legs a little bit, you'll get a little bit more hip stretch and less of a stretch in the thoracic area. So play around with the position of your legs. See if you can turn your head to look over the left fingertips or look at the left fingertips. And then take one more breath here. Exhale as we bring the knees back to center, engage Mula Bandha. And then we'll inhale, bringing the knees over to the other side. Knees are going left, arm is going right. The dristi is going up towards that right hand, if that's comfortable for your neck. Close your eyes if that feels meaningful to you. And also just sort of lower your lids just a little bit so that you're kind of at that half mast with your eyelids. Or you can keep your eyes open, whatever feels like it's what you need to do right now. Listen to our breath. Listen to our body. All the sensations in our body are the way that the body communicates. Sensations are the language of the body. One more breath here. And then we'll tighten Mula Bandha, bringing your knees back to center. And if there's any pose you need to do before we go into Shavasana, go ahead and do it. I'm going to grab my bolster and place it under my knees. You have some type of support to put underneath your knees. That's really nice. Arms come down at about a 30-degree angle on each side, with the palms open. And just maybe wiggle a little bit. Settle into your Shavasana. We're talking about motor learning and reprogramming our brains. This rest time is when all of it starts to sort of be processed and made into a more solid learning platform. So we need this time of consolidation so that we can retain the movements that we just performed and make them part of who we are. So first you might notice your alignment, noticing the breath. Maybe noticing the pelvis and the ribs, the thoracic spine. And then as you start to sort of settle down into more relaxation, you feel the heaviness of your limbs, heaviness of your head, heaviness of your torso. Start to let go of thoughts. Start to let go of the story that we weave around the thoughts. It's as if you're just witnessing the thoughts. They come, go. And the space between the thoughts starts to widen. There's gaps between the thoughts widen. Notice if you have any tension, your jaw and your tongue. See if you can let that go. Notice any tension in your brow, your face, your neck. See if you can allow that to go. You can imagine that your cheeks and your ears and your tongue are just falling down towards the mat. Notice any tension in the shoulders and the arms and the hands. Just sort of mentally follow them, mind's eye. Allow them to be really heavy against the floor. Maybe even imagining that you're holding onto something really warm in each hand. Big ball of light, warming light. See if you notice the heaviness of your thighs as they rest against the floor, against the bolster of the blanket. Mind's eye following your legs down into the calf muscles, into the feet. Allow gravity just to overcome you as you sink down. And release all resistance to the present moment. And when you're ready, just start to awaken the limbs a little bit by moving your feet and your hands. You rock your head from side to side. And just noticing what you notice at the present moment. Not judging. It's not good, it's not bad, it just is. And then when you're ready, if you had your legs over a bolster, just put your feet up on the bolster and kick it out of the way, or move the blankets out of the way. Just try not to disturb the calmness that you feel in your body right now. We'll roll over onto your right side. Place your right arm underneath your right ear, maybe your hand between your knees. In this fetal position, we come from corpse pose, which is the death of the practice. And it's almost like a little mini rebirth. Every time we practice yoga, we come back to the present moment where everything is new. Where we recognize our thoughts as just thoughts. They're not who we are. We recognize sensations as sensations and not who we are. Start to recognize the gaps between the thoughts. The stillness. And when you're ready, straighten out the top leg, press down gently with your arms, and we'll come back this time to an easy seat position. Did a lot of hip opening, so hopefully your hips feel nice and open. If they don't, you can always sit on a block or a blanket. Come back to that alignment of the rib cage over the pelvis. Maybe kind of feel that separation between ribs and pelvis. Maybe rocking side to side. And then we'll take our hands in front of our heart. We talked last time about leaving a little space between the hands, a little bit of a gap, just like we're holding something very precious there. We want to keep it protected and yet open at the same time. So find that balance between safety and curiosity and exploration, and adventure. And then if you'd like to join me, we'll say the sound of Om, which brings a vibrational energy through our whole body. If you prefer not to do that, if you want to just hum, or if you just want to listen to the vibration, that's an option as well. So take your breath in. The light in me bows to the light in each one of you. Namaste.